Hey guys, it's Alex from Board Game Co. and welcome to another Kickstarter roundup video. In this video we have a few more games than usual, something like 7 or 8 games. Additionally, for the first time since doing this roundup series, I actually have a few of these that I am backing. So we'll get to those, we'll cover those all as we go through them. Starting off the lot, we have Cloudspire, Ankar's Plunder, and this is the first one on the list that I am also backing. I did another full video on this that I will link to up above. You can just click on that little pop-up you'll see. And this one is basically the newest Kickstarter by Chip3 Games. It's an expansion for Cloudspire, which really makes it kind of an easy decision for the most part. Well, that's not true. Sorry, I take it back. If you already own and like the base game, it's probably an easy back. This is cheaper than you'll get it later. If you have played Cloudspire and have not liked it, it's probably an easy pass. If you like other Chip Theory products, let's say you like Too Many Bones, you like Hoplomachus, then you should definitely look into getting Cloudspire. Cloudspire is rated incredibly well. It's rated incredibly well for both solo, for competitive 2-player, and cooperative 2-player. Generally, it does not seem to be recommended for more than that, but it's definitely one that you might want to take a look at. It is incredibly well rated from a company that is basically known for producing mostly awesome games. Past one exception, their games are very well liked. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and back it, and I recommend that you guys do. I recommend you look into it if you haven't already to figure out what you want to do. From there, we have the next one on the list, which is GPS, Sequoia, and Mountain Goats. This is from Chad Deshawn. This is from Board Game Tables. They have done a few board games already, and they're actually, it's fascinating to watch this company because they started with Board Game Tables. I don't know if they started with, but they're known for Board Game Tables, and from there they've not moved on, they still do both, but they've done a bunch of games from QE, from On Tour, and their games fall in this weirdly fascinating category of a lot of the games are reprints of existing properties, but they polish them up. They have these simple, accessible gameplay. I have only played from their games On Tour, but I really love On Tour. I will not actually be backing this one, but it's definitely one you should look at in terms of backing, meaning their games have done a fairly good job of holding their value once they hit the market. People seem to like their games, and the available supply is not always as high as the available demand. QE, On Tour are both games that historically, at least for ourselves, they have sold well. They seem to be getting a lot of love, and they, like I said, they hold their value. So if you're getting this bundle, it's probably a bundle that will hold its value. It may not be worth more than its value, but even once you account for Kickstarter shipping costs, it's a pretty safe buy, and if you like their other games, it's probably worth looking into. For me, the only reason I'm passing on this one is because only one of these 3 games really appeals to me. Sequoia, with its Can't Stop meets Las Vegas, is a hook that has me very intrigued. I love both those games for quick, easy, casual fun, for introducing new players to the hobby. Both these games have always been great, done a great job for me. So I'm very interested in Sequoia, and I plan on getting this when it comes out. But getting one game didn't really seem worth it right now, and I'm interested in trying all 3. I'm just not backing it. I will get them later. From there, but again, it's a good buy. It will hold its value. If you're interested, this is not money down the tube. This is a good, reasonable buy. From there, we have, where is it? We have Wolfenstein the board game. Wolfenstein the board game is another one that I've done a video on already. Again, look for that little pop-up here, but I will go ahead and link to that. I've done a full breakdown of this. They're doing incredibly well with $500,000 raised. They have 6 days to go. This is from Arkan Studio. I am very on the fence about this one, especially because my opinion has changed a bit from the video I link up there, in the sense that I have played Reichbusters and have not liked Reichbusters, so I'm now kind of more looking for that spot in my collection to be filled. And this is a game that there are a few reasons I'm not backing it, but the main ones at this point come down to the fact that the miniatures will require assembly, and that's a huge turnoff for me. It just means it's going to take that much longer for me to get it to the table, that much more prep time. I'd rather buy or trade someone's copy down the road that has already assembled their miniatures, so that is really a big reason for why I'm not backing it. Additionally, I'm just not a fan of the actual miniature style. It's very uncanny valley for me. It looks very hyper-realistic in a way that's slightly off-putting, so the gameplay itself looks intriguing. And then the final reason is really combined with the fact that Arkane Studio has had a spotty track record of producing games on time with a reasonable deadline, with communication, without issues. And so those issues all kind of combine to make me not be willing to back this right now while being interested in the property and hoping to get it down the road. Like I said, I did a full video up top. You can take a look at that. It's one you should look at. It will, as far as the value proposition, it'll likely hold its value, assuming the game doesn't tank. And I will note that the King of Average did do a video review, and he's enjoying the game. They called it Wolfenstein Plus, so they're enjoying that game, which definitely is a check mark in the right direction. Doesn't mean it's a good game, but it does mean that someone with a reasonable opinion likes the game. From there, we move on to Ankh, Gods of Egypt, and this is the next one that I am backing on this list. Again, link to my full video up top, but Ankh is the newest game by the creators of Blood Rage and Rising Sun. This is by Eric Lang, by Command Games, Studio McVeigh for the miniatures, the art by Adrian Smith. This is the third game in their epic trilogy. I don't know what they call the trilogy, I can't recall, but it's the next installment in the legendary saga. As far as value proposition, this is, like I said, this is a command game. This will hold its value, no problem whatsoever. The game would have to be pretty bad for the value to not be there. Even if it's just not as good as Blood Rage and not as good as Rising Sun, you'll still see your money back if you want to sell or trade it down the road. I recommend jumping in on this if it appeals to you. It will be, like I said, this $100 pledge. Throw on the shipping costs. It's going to end up costing you $50 more than retail, possibly more than that, but you'll be able to flip it. Like, I've seen people commenting that they're getting the game and they're going to sell the Kickstarter extras to pay for the whole thing. And they're right. You can probably sell just the extras and still pay for your copy and get a free copy of Ankh, essentially. So command games tend to hold their value unless they are really bad. By hold the value, even more than their value. So this is a safe back for sure. If you like the other games in the series, it's worth giving it a look. Whether or not you want to back it, the only caveat I'll mention is there has been some drama about their financial stability. For the most part, from what I've seen looking into it, it seems like they're totally fine. It seems like it's totally reasonable. Like, it's just a bunch of standard accounting stuff. But I have seen opinions from other people saying that, no, it's actually a big deal. Do I think it is myself? No, because if I did, I wouldn't put my money in. But I think that they're totally fine and safe. But it's just mentioning it in terms of you being fully aware. From there, we move on to Blacklist Miniatures. Now, this is a bit of a tough one for me in the sense that, I'll start off with the basics. I'm not backing this because I'm just not the target market for this. I love miniatures. I love miniatures in board games, but I need those miniatures to be in board games. I have no interest in miniatures for the sake of miniatures themselves. I don't play D&D or any sort of platform or game that would have any use for them. And I'm not really, I do paint a little bit, but I'm not a painter for the sake of painting. So I'm just not the target market. So I'll start with that disclaimer. From there, I think I'm very happy for what Blacklist Games is funded. As always, I generally wish companies the best. These videos are meant to be a service to you to help keep you informed. So if I say if I recommend not backing something, I always do feel bad about that because there's someone else on the other side who's losing out. At the same time, I want everyone to be well. Now, Blacklist Miniatures, which is the newest division of Blacklist Games, I am truly fascinated by what they're doing here in terms of their pivot. And I think that they could have been done much better, but again, I'm happy they're funding. Now, what I mean by that is, this is a board game company that is pivoting to do miniatures, which to me is kind of shocking, at least in the timeline-wise, because they don't yet have a track record of producing great miniatures. Meaning, I'm surprised it funded, frankly. They have a track record of producing completely mediocre miniatures. Like, they've actually not only, it would almost be better to have a zero slate. They have a track record of producing mediocre miniatures, and they say that they've pivoted. They say that their newer miniatures are better, but until people have a board game in their hands with these newer, better miniatures, ultimately all you're looking at is, three-dimensional sculpts. It's not the same thing. So I hope that they are incredibly good. I hope they're great. I backed Alter Quest, so I definitely hope the miniatures are great. But again, I backed Alter Quest for the board game, hoping the miniatures would be better, as opposed to over here, you're backing for the miniatures, and they don't yet have that track record. In addition, and this is kind of disappointing as well, if you scroll down to the stretch goals, the stretch goals are all based on art. There's no 3D sculpts for the stretch goals. Now, this is something they've done in their videos before, in their board games before, but that was fine in the board game when the point was the board game. When you're when you're a miniature company, I'm kind of surprised that their miniatures, that their stretch goals are 3D sculpts instead of actual miniatures. a little bit surprised. It doesn't seem like, meaning everything they're doing here still seems like they're a board game company who happens to be producing miniatures. They don't seem to be a miniature company. They're the way they're handling the campaign and their track record of miniatures is they might be the best, and I hope they're great, but it definitely is a flag for me on both those counts, which is why I don't believe I would back this even if I were the target market. Again, wish them the best, hope it does well, glad it funded, but I'd be wary because of those two facets. But again, it might be great, just to be clear. Wariness is not the same as saying it's bad. Wariness is just saying we have a lack of seeing the validity of what they're doing. From there, we move on to the Defense of Procyon, or Procyon, I don't actually know how to pronounce that. The Defense of something 3, okay? Now, this one is an interesting one to me because I'm only including this one here right now in case I don't do another Kickstarter roundup before this ends. I actually want to do a lot more information on this one, but I need to look into it a lot more. And also, the Kickstarter campaign is fairly new. There's a lot of stuff that's going to change, that's going to adjust, such as I may end up doing a full video on it on its own, depending on how things go. But ultimately, this is by David Tursi. Again, might be horribly butchering that name, but what I love the sentence over here, the war game for the Eurogamer. That is already just a hugely appealing thing for me to see because I enjoy I don't enjoy traditional war games such as, well, I can't even say such as, but more anything with like chits and counters is not my kind of war game. I tend to be someone who prefers Ameritrash, hybrids, and Eurogames. Now, this game, looking through the campaign, looks very intriguing, looks very interesting. Miniatures seem kind of meh, but I like miniatures, but it's not a make it or break it for me in games. Ultimately, the game comes first. The painted miniatures look great. These sculpts, this 3D modeling look okay. The actual game itself looks interesting. I have not looked into it a ton. I have not gone through some of the playthrough videos, but the basics at its core, the basics look very interesting. I like the all the various options here. I like the gameplay mechanisms. I'm enjoying what I see so far. Now, the big flag for me, which is why I want to do this video again later, is this $80 pledge level, or $99 is, let me see if I can see it. It's blocking on my screen over here. This $99 pledge level over here, it's a lot of money, and that's before shipping. So it might be more than that later, but is it worth it in its current form? What are you getting for that? And I don't have a full picture, both because I haven't done a full research of all the stuff in the campaign, meaning at a scroll through here, there's not a ton of data as to what you're actually getting, and it doesn't look like it's worth $100. The question is whether it's a good enough game to begin with, and or whether the stretch goals really add value here. So I would like to do another video later where I'll talk more as to my opinion on the value proposition, but what I'll say for right now, in case I don't do another video, is I am intrigued, I am interested, while also being very uncertain about the value proposition. From there, we move to Lords of Vegas. Lords of Vegas is one that I was excited about, but am not backing, unfortunately. Now, Lords of Vegas is a game that I actually got rid of a long time ago, but I really, really liked it, and it has constantly stayed on my debating whether to get back list. There were some aspects of the gameplay. I guess I tend to be very harsh about games that have a poor gameplay experience even occasionally, meaning I want to enjoy my games every time I play them. I have so many games that are great that I want to enjoy them every time I play them. Lords of Vegas is a game that I generally liked it. When I played, most of the time that I played it, I liked it a lot. But occasionally, like every 6th or 7th game would be kind of a bad game just because of the way the game played out and because of the way the players did it. And I don't mean you did poorly, I just mean the whole game, like everyone kind of feel it. So I eventually got rid of it because of that, but the game, when it shined, the game was so enjoyable that I've constantly debated whether to get it back. And when I heard about this Kickstarter, I was jumping in. I was like, great, 10th anniversary edition, awesome, I'm in. Ultimately, it just kind of seems like the only thing they're really adding, they're doing the same boxes and not changing much. They're adding poker chips. That's what they're doing, which is a good upgrade, don't get me wrong. But at the price point and what you can get, I'm passing on the Kickstarter, unfortunately. I may still get it back once it's actually printed, or I may get it back before it's printed, I don't know. But I don't think the value proposition is here in terms of what they're asking versus what you'll be able to get it for later. So it's not a poor price, don't get me wrong, but the content to price ratio generally for this, from what I'm seeing, will be better in retail if you just wait for it. From there, last on the list, we have Final Girl. Final Girl is from Van Ryder Games. This one looks really intriguing to me, but I am not backing it, and I'll explain why. First of all, value proposition, value proposition is probably there. Van Ryder Games has been on a track or on a run recently with most of their recent games have been well liked and have been holding their value so far. So in terms of that alone, just going on their past games so far, you're probably safe as far as the value proposition. You're not going to make a killing on it, don't get me wrong, but you can probably, flip it for what you paid for if you don't like the game. As far as why I'm interested, just because I love the modular system that they have in play here. I like the murder mystery theme going on. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing here. As far as why I'm not backing it is because Van Ryder Games, while they have a bunch of recent games that people have liked, I personally have not played any of them. So I have no real knowledge as to whether these games are for me or not. I will probably pick this up later, I'll trade for it or buy a used copy or something like that, or maybe just wait to see how the reviews go. I am interested, but not interested enough to take the plunge. So that's basically it. That's the Kickstarter roundup for this week. A bunch of games, 2 of which I'm backing, a bunch more that just are probably a safe bet. This is a much better week in terms of safe bets and where to put your Kickstarter money, which is great because I like giving you guys good news about, well, I don't know if you call it good news. I'm basically telling you to spend more money. But if you are interested in these games, I hope this video was useful for you. I hope it informed, gave an opinion that could be of any benefit. But that's basically it. Again, I'm Alex from Board Game Co. If you like this video, if you like this content, go ahead and subscribe down below. Ring the bell for notifications. Comment. Let me know down below which ones are you backing and why. Or did I get anything wrong? I mean, in one of my recent videos, I believe the last video, Trekking the World was a game that I commented was not worth the price point, and a bunch of people pointed out that I was actually incorrect. Unfortunately, but it happens. I was incorrect. And their games are generally price fixed at $50, so you're basically getting a $10 discount on what the game would normally be if you bought it retail. Now you still have to factor in shipping and all that, but the point was I believed that it was a poor buy, and in reality they were basically offering you the same or slightly better deal. I do get things wrong. I feel very badly when I do, especially if I'm giving negative news, because the last thing I want to do is negatively affect a company while being wrong. At the same time, not at the same time. I don't want to in any way minimize being wrong and the importance of it. That being said, it is the nature of being a YouTuber, and this is something we see with anyone who's given any review, any sort of content. Sometimes things will be wrong. It is it's a responsibility, and it's a responsibility on me that I take seriously, and it's a difficult job to balance being able to help inform you guys while also making sure that I can actually produce this stuff without having to triple check every single fact. It is a delicate balance, and I don't know what my plans are going forward. Short version is the more I get things wrong, the more I will improve my process to prevent getting things wrong. I don't care if I mispronounce a name, doesn't bother me in the slightest. I don't care if I say David Tershi when it should be David Terzi. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. It does bother me if I give you an incorrect fact, and every time that happens, I always appreciate having people comment down below so that other people can be informed, and it also helps me know whether I have to triple check my process. But again, that's basically it. Once again, like, subscribe, comment, engage, let me know, all that good stuff. And until next time, I'm Alex from Board Game Co.